Good afternoon, it's Father Jonathan coming to you on this Monday of the fourth week of Easter. And time continues to move on during quarantine. It's May 4th already, and we've been away from church for quite a while now. And hopefully you're continuing your spiritual journey in your own ways, in your own isolation, and even being away from the church, you're hopefully finding and encountering Jesus Christ in greater ways. You're taking advantage of this opportunity, dare I say. Today I would like to talk a little bit more about this image of Jesus the Good Shepherd, and I say more because if you watched Mass yesterday, you heard me in the homily reflect on Jesus the Good Shepherd. And yesterday's Gospel was John 10, 1 through 10, the first half of the Good Shepherd discourse, and then today, Monday, we hear the second half of the Good Shepherd discourse, which is 11 through 21, and I encourage you to go back and read John 10 on your own because it's packed with meaning. And I would say that in addition to what I said yesterday at Mass, if you watched that this I am the Good Shepherd has two very important meanings to it. And by the way, there's 7 I am statements in the Gospel of John, and anytime Jesus says I am the Good Shepherd, I am the bread of life, I am the way and the truth and the life, I am the resurrection and the light. And all these I am statements, Jesus is, I'm suggesting, making at least 2 radical claims. And the first, any Jew in John's community or in the time of Jesus, as soon as they heard I am, their minds would have went immediately back to the Old Testament text where that's specifically how God describes himself to Moses. I am who am. So in that, they would have heard Jesus claiming that he's one with God, and what a radical statement and what a radical theology that Jesus is truly God incarnate, which we hopefully all believe, although I think we may take it for granted sometimes, or we may not acknowledge how significant and how powerful that is. And then the second thing that Jesus is doing in all these I am statements is he's offering this very personal and deep and intimate relationship with each and every one of us. God was a personal God from the very beginning. From Genesis, when he breathed life into our nostrils and created man, the whole way through the Old Testament as he continued to communicate himself to Israel, and then finally in the most powerful sense when he became incarnate in the person of Jesus Christ. So when Jesus says I am, and we'll stick with the Good Shepherd, I am the Good Shepherd, he's saying I am the God of all the cosmos, but I'm also this personal God who I mention all the time, has come into our world and has entered so deeply into our very lives. And so while it's a challenge to accept the incarnation that God is alive and well among us, it's also this radical challenge to be open to this great encounter with Jesus Christ. And that's such an important aspect of John's gospel, this personal relationship with Jesus Christ, all the gospels for that matter. And it's a challenge for us to be open to that over and over and over again, because to know Jesus Christ is the very core of who we are as Christians. It's the very core of who we are as Catholics. So many people, I think, have left the church or have gotten turned off by Catholicism or religion in general because they've heard about Jesus Christ, or they've read something about Jesus Christ, and a lot of times it might not have been accurate, or someone's told them something about God or religion and Jesus Christ, and it's been bad information, and they've never had the opportunity to actually come to know him. And that's with people too, right? We can know about somebody, we can read about him, we can hear about him through friends, through the rumor mill and all that stuff, but then we meet the person and all of a sudden who they really are comes into our understanding in a fuller way. So when Jesus says, I am the Good Shepherd, and he says, and I'll quote John's Gospel here, I am the Good Shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me. Just as a Father knows me, and I know the Father. That continued use of the word to know. And that's the core of what it is to be Christian, to know Jesus Christ. And how do we do that? How do we know this great I am? Well, it begins foundationally, and I've said this over and over again as well, through prayer, by constantly going before God and opening myself up to God in a radical way, and offering myself in this personal relationship, because He's always there. It's a degree to how much I am open to receiving Him. I begin to know Him through prayer, and I identify Him through prayer. And then finally, and then more and more as I go out into the world, I identify Him and I see Him out in the world, and I see Him in others, because I've entered into this deep personal relationship. You still might be saying, well, that's great, but why is that so important? Well, let me fast forward now to John 17, and this is my favorite quote in all the Gospels. And it was actually the Gospel of the first Mass I said as a priest. John 17:3 says, He's addressing the Father, and He says, and Jesus says, and this is eternal life, to know you, God, and the one you sent, Jesus Christ. Now listen to that again. Now this is eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and the one you sent, Jesus Christ. So you want to know what it means to have eternal life? It's simply to know Jesus Christ. You want to know what it means to have abundant life as a Christian? It's simply to know Jesus Christ. Eternal life, abundant life, life in all its fullness begin now. And it starts with this encounter with Jesus Christ. John's gospel, all the gospels for that matter, are crystal clear about this. Take this time. Take the time of silence that this isolation offers and enter more deeply into this personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Come to know God in the truest sense of the word. You will not be disappointed. And I'll even offer this caveat. You'll come to know Him in such a deep way that when we come back to the Eucharist, even the Eucharistic offering, although we can never impose more meaning onto it, will mean even more to you than it had before. The great challenge in this Christian faith is to open ourselves up to Jesus Christ. He already knows us. May we come to know Him more and not just know about Him. May we come to know Him more so that we can experience eternal life here and the now and not just simply sit around and wait for it. May God's love be with you always, and I look forward to talking to you soon via the web and hopefully seeing you in person sooner than later. God bless.